Standing at the doorstep of her childhood home in the evening as the scorching Phoenix sun was setting, Mary Watson hesitated slightly before pressing the doorbell. It had been 5 years since she'd returned home. The feeling of stepping back into this house somehow enveloped her with a sense of returning to her girlhood. "Mary, you're here," her mother Carol's voice carried more tension than warmth. Her mother looked older than Mary remembered, but her perfectly styled hair and makeup showed that her dedication to appearance remained intact. "It's been a while, Mom." Even as they embraced, there was an unspoken distance between them. Carol quickly moved away from the entrance, leading Mary to the living room. The interior had barely changed since her father Thomas passed away 3 years ago. His old leather armchair still occupied its place in front of the television, as if he might return at any moment. "Where's Amy?" Mary asked about her sister. "She went out shopping. She should be back soon," Carol's answer was curt, her eyes avoiding Mary's. "How's life in Chicago? Is Jason well?" "Yes, we're both fine. My design firm is doing well, and I've been getting more requests from major clients lately." Mary spoke about her successful life in Chicago, but her mother's response was tepid. Carol stood up to make coffee, heading toward the kitchen with a somewhat flustered demeanor. Her back radiated a tension that suggested she was hiding something. 5 years ago, when Mary decided to move to Chicago, her relationship with her family became strained. Her father Thomas especially objected, saying, "How could you move so far from home?
Do you know some people earn over $10,000 a month just by posting Reddit stories on YouTube? No face, no voice, just a laptop. I'd do it 2 link below if you're curious."
Even at her father's funeral, Mary had stayed for only 1 day before leaving. This time, she had taken a few days off to return home, hoping to find some way to reconcile. When Carol returned with coffee, she stared at Mary's wedding ring and abruptly asked, "Are there any problems between you and Jason?" "No, nothing in particular," Mary tilted her head. "Why?" "No reason," Carol hastily changed the subject. "I've kept your room just as it was. Why don't you take your luggage up?" Mary headed to her room on the 2nd floor. Opening the door, she found the posters and trophies from her teenage years still preserved. It was like a space where time had stopped. She set down her bag and gazed at the backyard through the window. The peach tree she had planted with her father Thomas had grown impressively. "Sis." Turning around, she saw Amy standing in the doorway. After graduating from college, Amy worked at a local real estate company. Though smaller in build than Mary, she had the same brown eyes and soft curly hair. "Amy." The sisters embraced tightly. Amy's hug was warm, but her eyes revealed some uneasiness. "Sorry, I was out shopping. I wasn't sure when you'd arrive." "Don't worry about it. So, what's new with you? Anything exciting happening?" Amy hesitated for a moment. "Nothing special. Same as always." Mary sensed something odd about her sister's awkward smile but didn't press further. They went downstairs together to help prepare dinner. During the meal, conversation remained superficial, covering topics like the weather and neighborhood gossip. Mary felt a strange tension, as if the entire family was hiding something. That night, while Carol was in the bath, Mary entered her mother's room to drop off something she had forgotten. On the bedside table were her father's photograph and medication bottles. She accidentally knocked a file folder off the shelf, and its contents scattered across the floor. As Mary hurriedly picked them up, she found a booklet labeled "Wedding Planner" and a brochure for the luxury Desert Blossom Hotel. Leafing through further, she saw Amy Watson's name and a date 2 weeks away. Mary gasped. Amy was planning a wedding. And no one in the family had told her about it. Why was she the only one excluded? Questions swirled in Mary's mind. "Mary! What are you doing?" Turning around, she saw Carol standing at the entrance in her bathrobe. Her mother's expression mixed anger and fear. "Amy's getting married." Mary's voice trembled. Why didn't you tell me? Carol quickly snatched the documents from Mary's hands and shoved them into a drawer. Her mother's eyes reflected anger along with something else, fear, or perhaps guilt. This doesn't concern you. Don't you dare come. Carol's words were sharp, piercing Mary's heart. What do you mean? How could I not attend my own sister's wedding? There are circumstances. Please don't ask any more. Carol stubbornly closed the subject. We'll talk tomorrow morning. Go to bed now. Mary returned to her room in confusion. Through the window, countless stars shone in the night sky, but her heart was covered in dark clouds. She picked up her cell phone and called Jason. After it went to voicemail twice, her husband finally answered on the third try. Mary, what's up? Did you get to your parents' house? Jason's voice sounded somewhat tense. Jason, something unbelievable has happened. It seems Amy is getting married. But no one told me anything about it. There was a moment of silence on the other end. I see, that's strange. Mom told me not to come to the ceremony. Isn't that weird? Well, there might be complex family circumstances. Jason's voice sounded strained. By the way, I have meetings for a big project starting tomorrow, so I might not be able to contact you much. Don't worry. What would you do? Should I go to the wedding? Well, if you weren't invited, maybe you shouldn't go. You should respect your family's wishes. Mary frowned. This advice was unlike Jason, who usually told her to be true to your feelings. I understand. Good night. After hanging up, Mary immediately dialed another number. Her maternal aunt Sarah had been Mary's emotional support since childhood. Sarah answered on the third ring. Mary. It's been a while. You're back at your parents' house. Aunt Sarah, something terrible has happened. It seems Amy is getting married, but nobody told me anything. The sound of Sarah catching her breath came through the phone. Well. Did you know about it? I had heard about it. Sarah's voice sounded apologetic. But I don't know the details. Carol just said there were special circumstances. What special circumstances? Am I not family? Mary's voice shook with anger and sadness. Of course you're family, Mary. But I don't know everything either. You should ask Carol directly. Mary couldn't get a clear answer from Sarah either. She spent a sleepless night. The next morning, Carol skillfully avoided Mary's questions, saying only, "Ask Amy." However, Amy had left early and wouldn't return until evening. Mary made a decision. She called her high school best friend, Jennifer Clark. Jennifer was also close with Amy and active in the local community. Jen, it's been a while. I wanted to ask you something. Mary. You're back. For Amy's wedding. Jennifer's straightforward question momentarily left Mary speechless. Actually, I wanted to ask you about that. Could you tell me the details? You don't know. It's 2 weeks from Saturday. At the Desert Blossom Hotel Garden at 4 p.m., Jennifer answered without hesitation. I'm not a bridesmaid, but I was invited. They're a lovely couple, aren't they? Yes. Mary maintained her composure despite being on the phone where she couldn't be seen. What's the groom like? Oh, you don't know him. Jennifer exclaimed in surprise. He's a businessman, I heard. Coming from Chicago. His name is, wait. Jason, I think. Mary nearly dropped her phone. Her heart raced, and she felt breathless. Jason Miller. Her voice trembled. Yes, that's it. Do you know him? Thanks, Jen. I'll call you back. Mary quickly hung up. Her mind went blank, and the room seemed to spin. Jason Miller, that was her husband's name. But it had to be someone with the same name. That was the only explanation she could accept. But if it really was her husband, then his strange behavior on the phone last night, his frequent business trips over the past few months, his recent restlessness, it would all make sense. With trembling hands, Mary dialed Jason's number. This time she needed to hear his voice directly to confirm. But the call went straight to voicemail. "Jason, it's me. Call me back immediately. It's important." Mary headed to Amy's room. Her sister hadn't returned yet, but Mary had a way to check. Amy's door was open. Despite feeling guilty, Mary went to her sister's desk. Searching through the drawers, she found a small jewelry box. Opening it, she discovered an engagement ring. An elegant platinum ring with a large sparkling diamond. Mary picked up the ring and looked inside. There was a small engraving, "Forever, from J.M." The moment she saw that engraving, Mary's world collapsed. J.M., Jason Miller. Furthermore, she recognized the ring's design. It was from a jewelry brand they had looked at together 3 years ago, when Jason had said it was too expensive. The front door opened, and Amy's voice could be heard. Mary quickly returned the ring and went back to her own room. Her heart pounded fiercely, with countless thoughts swirling in her head. She picked up her phone and sent Jason a message. "I know the truth. No more lies." The reply came immediately. "What are you talking about?" "About the wedding with Amy." This time there was no response. Mary opened her suitcase in her room and began packing her clothes. There was a knock at the door, and Amy entered. "Sis, what are you doing? Are you leaving?" Amy's voice was tinged with anxiety. Mary turned around, feigning calmness. "Yes, I've got some urgent work. I need to go back to Chicago." "I see, that's too bad." Amy's eyes remained fixed on the floor. Mary wanted to scream inside, "Why? Why with my husband?" But she maintained her composure. She still needed confirmation. And she had a plan. "I'm sorry. But I'll be back in 2 weeks." Amy's face paled. 2 weeks? "Yes. Is there something special happening around then?" Mary deliberately asked. "No, nothing." Amy's voice was thin, and she was clearly lying. Mary smirked. "I see." That night, Mary boarded a flight to Chicago. But her mind was already at the Desert Blossom Hotel 2 weeks later. Jason called several times, but Mary didn't answer. She intended to confirm the truth with her own eyes. And if Jason and Amy were really planning to get married? Mary clenched her trembling hands. She would definitely attend that special day. The Desert Blossom Hotel was a luxury resort built to blend into the desert landscape on the outskirts of Phoenix. Even in Arizona's dry air, the scent of flowers announcing the wedding's splendor wafted through. Mary parked her car at the edge of the parking lot and adjusted her sunglasses. The black short-haired wig completely concealed her naturally long brown hair. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, she hesitated for just a moment. Was this really the right choice? But that question was quickly replaced by anger and determination. Having come this far, I'll see it through to the end. Instead of heading to the hotel entrance, Mary took a side path to the back of the garden. Jennifer had told her the wedding would be held at the outdoor garden terrace. She hid behind some foliage and gradually approached the venue. White chairs were neatly arranged, and the arch was decorated with white and pink roses. In a few hours, her sister and husband would exchange vows here. The absurdity of the situation brought a bitter smile to Mary's face. This area is off-limits to non-attendees. Startled by the sudden voice, Mary nearly jumped. Turning around, she saw a hotel staff member in uniform. "Oh, I'm sorry. I got a little lost." Mary lowered her voice as she replied. I'm here for a friend's wedding, and I was looking for a changing room. Your name, please. Jennifer Clark, Mary said without hesitation, using her friend's name. The staff checked the list and nodded. Ms. Clark, I see. The guest changing room is in a separate building. This way, please. Mary breathed a sigh of relief and followed the staff. Entering the changing room, she found several women already there, all busy with preparations. Mary sat in a corner, careful not to make eye contact with anyone. As time passed, the changing room gradually emptied. Mary took the opportunity to slip into the hallway and look for a back way to the ceremony site. With the wedding time approaching, hotel staff were busily moving about. She found a hidden spot in a corner of the hallway leading to the garden terrace. From there, she could see the entire venue while remaining concealed behind a large potted plant. It was the perfect observation point. Soon, guests began taking their seats. Mary spotted her mother Carol. Dressed in an elegant navy dress, she sat in the front row. Her expression showed joy, but with something shadowy lurking beneath it. Aunt Sarah sat nearby. Many family members and relatives Mary knew had gathered, though there were few from her father's side. Suddenly, music began to play softly, and everyone stood up. Mary's heart raced. From a distance, she could see a man in a black tuxedo. Mary gasped. Jason Miller, her husband, was standing next to the minister. This can't be happening. Though she had understood it intellectually, seeing it with her own eyes made the reality too cruel. Jason's face looked tense but somehow radiant. He wore an expression different from when he was with Mary. The wedding march began to play, and everyone's attention focused on the beginning of the aisle. Amy appeared, escorted by their Uncle Robert, who was standing in for their father. She was dressed in a pure white wedding gown, with a beautiful mermaid line that perfectly fit her slender body. Her hair was elegantly styled up, and her smile was visible beneath the veil. Mary felt her body trembling. This was a nightmare. Her sister was about to marry her husband. It didn't seem real. Amy slowly proceeded down the aisle and stood beside Jason. They gazed at each other, and Jason took Amy's hand. The sight tore at Mary's heart, remembering how he had once taken her hand with the same gesture. The minister began to speak. Today, we are gathered to celebrate the marriage of Amy Watson and Jason Miller. Mary wanted to cover her ears. But she had come to witness everything. As the minister's words continued, memories raced through Mary's mind like a kaleidoscope. The day 5 years ago when she first met Jason at a Chicago cafe. The beautiful view of Lake Michigan the night he proposed. Their small wedding. And the life they had built together even as she pursued her career. If anyone has reason to object to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace. The minister's traditional words brought Mary's thoughts back to reality. The venue fell silent. Carol looked around nervously. At that moment, something broke inside Mary. She leaped out from behind the potted plant and ran onto the aisle. I object. Mary's voice echoed throughout the venue. Everyone turned to her with shocked expressions. The blood drained from Jason's face, and Amy froze with her mouth open. That man is my husband. Mary removed her sunglasses and took off her wig. Her long brown hair fell to her shoulders. Carol screamed and clung to her chair. Mary. Amy's voice was thin. Mary took a few steps forward. Surprise. I thought I'd join you. Jason was rigid as stone. Mary, what are you doing here? What am I doing? Mary laughed bitterly. I've come to stop my husband from marrying my sister. The venue erupted in chaos. Guests raised confused voices, looking at each other. Shock and dismay appeared on people's faces as they began to understand that Mary's words were true. This is a misunderstanding, Jason said desperately. If we talk, you'll understand. A misunderstanding. Mary's laughter had hysteria in it. We've been married for 5 years. What part of that is a misunderstanding? Amy dropped her bouquet and covered her face with both hands. Carol stood up. Mary, stop it. Don't embarrass yourself in front of everyone. Embarrassment? Mary turned to her mother. I'm not the one who should be embarrassed. It's all of you, planning this farce without telling me anything. You've been too busy lately, Jason continued. Our relationship had become just a formality. Amy is. Shut up. Mary's anger exploded. Just because I was busy with work doesn't justify having an affair with my sister. The venue fell into complete silence. All eyes were on Mary, Jason, and Amy. I can't continue this charade any longer. Mary approached Jason and pulled the wedding ring off her left ring finger. It seems I don't need this anymore. She threw the ring at Jason's chest. The small gold band rolled down his tuxedo and fell to the ground. Mary, please. Amy tried to approach her sister, crying. Don't touch me. Mary stepped back. You're no longer my sister. Both of you, get out of my life. As Mary turned to leave the venue, Amy suddenly screamed. She clutched her abdomen, her face contorted. It hurts, it hurts. Amy's face turned pale, and she collapsed on the spot. Jason hurriedly supported her, and Carol screamed, rushing over. Someone call an ambulance. Carol's voice was filled with terror. Mary stopped and turned around. Amy was lying on the ground, breathing with difficulty. After a moment's hesitation, Mary rushed over. What's wrong? Amy. The baby. Amy said, her face twisted in pain. I'm pregnant. Mary froze at those words. The situation had become even more complicated. A new life was already growing between her husband and sister. The sound of an ambulance siren could be heard in the distance. Mary stood still amidst the confusion. Her life had collapsed minutes ago, but at this moment, she was more concerned about her sister's life than her own feelings. Was this what they meant by blood being thicker than water? It's going to be okay, Amy. Mary held her sister's hand. Help is coming. Mary's eyes met Jason's. Between these once loving partners, only complex emotions that words couldn't express now lay. The waiting room at Phoenix General Hospital was filled with tension. Mary sat on a hard plastic chair, staring into the distance. Carol sat several seats away, occasionally casting anxious glances at Mary but not attempting to speak. Jason was in the hospital room. A doctor appeared in the hallway and walked toward Carol and Mary. Are you the mother? The doctor asked Carol. Yes, I am. Is my daughter all right? Carol's voice trembled. She's stable for now. Fortunately, the baby is safe too. However, the symptoms were caused by stress and a sudden rise in blood pressure, so we need to keep her hospitalized for at least one night to monitor her condition. Carol sighed in relief. The baby is safe too, thank you. The doctor nodded and said, she wants to speak with her family, before leaving. Mary stood up and faced her mother. Mom, why? Why didn't you tell me anything? After a long silence, Carol sighed. Let's sit down, Mary. It seems it's time to talk. They moved to the hospital cafeteria. With coffee in front of them, Carol began to speak. Amy and Jason met 6 months ago. It was when he came to Phoenix to visit you. Mary frowned. 6 months ago, when I was away for the Milan project. Yes, Carol nodded. He couldn't meet you, but he happened to meet Amy and... She stumbled over her words. They hit it off. I think it was just friendship at first, but soon. They began an affair. Mary's voice was cold. Amy knew he was your husband. But according to her, Jason said his relationship with you had grown cold. That you were too focused on your career and had neglected him. That's no excuse. Mary made no attempt to hide her irritation. Of course not, Carol agreed with a tired expression. I tried to stop Amy. But she insisted that, my sister only cares about her work, Jason isn't loved. And then 3 months ago, she found out she was pregnant. Mary was speechless with shock. 3 months. Jason said he would take responsibility. Amy wanted to have the baby. I objected but. Carol covered her face with her hands. If Thomas were here, I don't think this would have happened. Footsteps approached from the hallway, and Jason appeared. His face was taut with fatigue and tension. Amy is fine, he informed Mary and Carol. She's resting a bit. Mary stood up and confronted her former husband. I'd like an explanation. Mary, Jason hesitated as if choosing his words. What we had was important. But lately, you've always been focused on work. And that's a valid reason to cheat. Mary's voice was low, trembling with anger. I'm not trying to justify it. Just, when I met Amy, she listened to me. Things you wouldn't listen to. So you chose my sister. Betrayed my family. Jason lowered his gaze. At first it was just friendship. But before I knew it. You didn't contact me or talk about divorce. Mary's words were as sharp as a blade. I was afraid, Jason honestly admitted. I didn't know how to tell you. And when I found out Amy was pregnant, I thought there was no going back. Another set of footsteps sounded from the hallway, and Amy appeared sitting in a wheelchair pushed by a nurse. Her face was pale, and her eyes were swollen. Sis. Amy's voice was hoarse. Mary faced her sister. She tried to appear calm, but anger and sadness swirled in her chest. Why, Amy? I'm sorry, Amy wept. At first we were really just friends. But Jason always listened to me. You're my sister. Mary's voice was filled with pain. How could you think of taking your sister's husband? You were always working, not treasuring him, Amy protested weakly. He was lonely. Lonely. Mary laughed bitterly. I was working day and night for our future. Who do you think was making all the payments when Jason's company failed? Amy showed a surprised expression. She looked at Jason. Your company failed. You said you were a successful businessman. Jason shifted uncomfortably. I exaggerated a bit. Exaggerated? Mary laughed coldly. His startup was a complete failure. I was working 2 jobs to support our household. For his new business. The blood drained from Amy's face. She looked at Jason with an expression of betrayal. In the end, neither of you knows anything about the other, Mary said in a tired voice. The hospital room door opened, and the doctor came out. Ms. Watson, let's go back. You and the baby need rest. The nurse began to push Amy's wheelchair. Amy turned back and reached out to Mary. Sis, forgive me. Mary took a step back. I can't right now, Amy. It will take time. Amy returned to her room, tears streaming down her face. Carol stood up and approached Mary. Mary, you're part of this situation too. Always focused on work. Mom, stop, Mary interrupted her mother. It's my fault. My husband has an affair with my sister, gets her pregnant, and it's my fault. Carol fell silent. You should have protected me as family, tears welled in Mary's eyes. But instead, you betrayed me. Jason tried to touch her arm, but Mary shook him off. Don't touch me anymore. Contact me through a lawyer. I'm starting divorce proceedings. Mary turned her back and headed for the hospital exit. Her life had crumbled in a day. But there was a new determination in her steps. This wasn't the end, it was a new beginning. Spring in New York had a different softness from Phoenix. In a cafe near Central Park, Mary Watson was sketching a new design in her sketchbook. Sunlight streaming through the window illuminated her left hand, now without a ring. A year had passed. Mary's life had changed dramatically. She had left Chicago and accepted an offer from a major design company in New York. The divorce had been finalized 3 months ago, and she was officially single again. "May I sit here?" Looking up at the gentle voice, there stood David Collins. He was an architect at the company where Mary worked, and they had become close through their work. Of course, Mary smiled. David sat down and placed his coffee, peering at Mary's sketch. "Wonderful. Is this a new design for the Boston project?" "Yes," Mary nodded. "I'm preparing for next week's presentation." After becoming animated discussing work, David carefully asked, "Any contact from your family?" Mary thought for a moment before answering. "My mother called last week. She apologized, which is rare. Her relationship with Carol wasn't completely repaired yet, but it was gradually improving. At first, her mother had defended Amy and Jason's relationship, but she seemed to have changed her mind after subsequent developments." "And Amy?" David knew. He knew that Mary sometimes had a sad expression when remembering her sister. "She miscarried." The events of that day triggered it. Mary's voice was quiet. "Jason apparently abandoned her. I heard he started dating another woman." David silently took Mary's hand. "It's ironic," Mary smiled. "Amy is now receiving counseling, I hear. She's trying to reflect on her actions and take responsibility. We might reconcile someday." "Time can resolve some things," David said gently. Mary nodded. "I told my mother, family isn't just about blood, trust and respect are important." From the cafe window, the spring sunlight enveloped them. Mary took a deep breath. The past had been painful, but it had made her stronger. Now, a new life stretched out before her. "Would you like to see the new exhibition at the museum this weekend?" David invited. "I'd love to," Mary smiled sincerely. That night, returning to her apartment, Mary opened an email from her mother. Attached was a short letter from Amy. "I'm truly sorry for the pain I caused you. I'm ashamed of my actions. I sincerely wish for your happiness. I hope someday you'll be able to forgive me. From Amy." Mary quietly wiped away a tear. Forgiveness was still difficult, but someday, when the wounds in her heart had healed, there might come a day for reunion. Outside the window, the New York night skyline sparkled. Just like her life, beginning a new chapter.